Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, folks. Welcome back to another 2 p.m. PST YouTube stream. Almost messed up there. I'm your host, Strange Bear Jim, and today we're going to be getting back into Pega. We got still got a lot to cover today um, concerning Pega. There was one topic that was pretty lengthy, and we'll get through that in just a minute. We also got some Unreal tutorials to kind of go through later on today. Some videos, some more videos to upload and, make public later on today as well. And then, of course, we got Honkai Star Rail at the very end of the day, playing some games at the end. So, what are we going to do? Or actually, let me discuss what these videos are about. If you're catching me live on YouTube, then great. Thank you for joining me on this. Hopefully you'll stick around as we continue the journey. Um, if you're catching this later, you know, and as like a separate video or as in the playlist, thank you for watching. Feel free to check out the other playlists or other videos, especially if this is a topic that you are interested in. So, that being said, who am I? What are these videos about? And, uh, what should you expect? So, at this particular moment in time, I am currently an unemployed software developer whose last job was working with the Pega environment. Me and several others were in a group um, being trained by an authorized training partner about Pega. We had some issues with that particular trainer, and the majority of us were majority, if not all of us, were pretty much doing self-study by the end. Um, it was pretty bad. Even this coworkers knew that was pretty bad. We asked to be put back into another training session with a different training partner, but never happened. So the one and only time that I took a certification was pretty bad. I knew that I wasn't ready for it, but they basically said either take it now or take the highway. So I took it. I failed it, which wasn't too much of a surprise by me, but it's kind of my fault that I never went back and took it once I felt ready. But again, it felt like I was tackling a lot anyway. So, um, but um, never was never put back into the authorized training partner. Got pushed into a contract, um, and um, it should have been, it would have been nice if I had a proper mentor to kind of help me get to take the certification again to answer my questions, but that never happened. Um, the most support that I pretty much got was like, "Hey, if you have questions, we'll be there to answer them," and that was it. So, um, now if you're watching this and you're like, are you an authorized training partner or an instructor? I am not. Both of those should be very knowledgeable in individuals that know Pega, forwards and backwards. Okay, I'm not one of those individuals. I'm learning it just, the same as you. Um, if you are indeed, trying to get to your certification as well. Um, I encourage anybody that is, part of the Pega Academy or a veteran, a lead, a senior, whatever, I welcome you to kind of stay and hopefully answer questions that, I will most likely have. Um, in previous videos, I've already kind of discussed some of the questions, some of the concerns that I've had. feel free to go back through those videos and, you know, answer the questions that I have. I would really love to get some insight on, um, you know, get answers, get, um, something from those questions that I pondered um, in previous videos. But um, yeah, not sure. I hope that, that will happen. It'd be nice. But yeah, I can't, you know, you shouldn't necessarily consider me as a expert. Now, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions though, okay? Because while, you know, I will try to answer them if I can, but if I can't, I will see about trying to find someone that can. I have worked with a couple of professionals in the past, so I can ask them if necessary to come and answer your question. Or maybe someone else from the community will answer as well. Okay, don't be afraid to ask questions. So whether it's right now live, while I'm streaming, or later on in the comment section, either one is fine. So please go ahead and ask your questions. If you do want to take the instructor-led training, just know that it's like a 2-week course, $5,000, so it's not exactly cheap. And most likely they'll be kind of pushing you towards getting that certification. So it's going to be just a information dump of Pega. So be prepared to be taking a lot of notes, taking a lot of videos, asking a lot of questions, because believe me, you'll want to. Okay. When I took the certification for Pega 8.6, I knew that there were some Pega 7.0 questions in the certification itself. They were asking keywords that I'd never seen before, and um, I missed some of those questions because I didn't know what they were talking about. So be prepared for that. Okay. So ask those questions. So okay. But I'm working towards my system architect certification myself. I've already finished the business architect, so if that's the certification that you're going for, go back through my past videos and those will be there. Um, the two modules here for the Pega Platform 8.7 is all about the Pega Express delivery. I would recommend that you go over this Pega Express delivery because those two modules there, I feel don't really do enough concerning the Pega Express, and seeing that this is 12%, you'll want to have that experience. Okay, you'll want to know more about the Pega Express. Okay, um, instead of getting 88% max on your certification, make sure that you're trying to aim for that 100%. Okay, so, but we're continuing on with our system architect. So, um, we have a lot of topics and challenges left to do. So, um, we were in accessing source data. We were on data pages. And I was only able, I mean, there's a lot of information in this page, so I was only able to get to data sources here. So that's where we're going to pick up from yesterday. So strap in, because this is a lot of information on one particular topic. So let's get started, shall we? So use the data sources section of the data page form to specify how Pega Platform populates the contents of a data page when the application references the page. To configure a data source, specify the type of the source and the name of the data source. You can use any of the following options to configure a data source for a data page: data transform, activity, connector, report definition, database lookup, robotic automation, robotic desktop automation. For each source type, you identify the data source to query. The following example shows a data source configured to populate a data page with a list structure by running the data table editor report for the class customer. I'm going to skip all that. So you got a source of a report definition. The name is data table editor report. From that class, and there you go. You must configure a data transform to map the response to the data model for the case type or data type when using a report definition to source a page structure, using a lookup to source a list structure, using a robotic automation, and using a robotic desktop automation. Now, bear in mind, okay, this robotic automation and robotic desktop automation, these two here, they're kind of outside the scope of the system architect. Okay, that is, um, that is a tool that can be used, but you know, it's not something that is going to be, um, mainly focused upon, um, in the, as a system architect. Okay, that's more advanced features than what you will typically see. Okay, so while the certification might still address those, okay, they might still say, hey, these are still options that you can use. Um, it shouldn't necessarily say, what is robotic. It shouldn't necessarily go into, or at least I would hope that it wouldn't necessarily go into the robotic automation, like, explain what robotic automation is all about. Um, or what the definition of it or whatnot. I would hope, okay, because there's other missions, covering that portion of the, those details. Okay, there's an actual certification for that. So that's uh, kind of outside the scope. So it shouldn't be on the certification test, but I say that, but then again, I've seen, um, Pega 7 questions in there. So, there's only so much that I can do. There's only so much that I can speculate on. I don't know the database that they're using for certification, so, I don't know. Um, you know, on one hand, I'd say be prepared for it. On the other hand, I would say, it shouldn't be on the certification. Um, but I don't know. We move on. Data sourcing from multiple data sources. So if you must combine data from multiple sources to populate a data page, select the aggregate sources option. Then identify each of the data sources to query. Pega platform populates the data page from the specified sources in the listed order. Conditional data sourcing from a data source. A data page must specify at least one data source. If a data page contains more than one source, configure a logical condition for each source to test whether to query the data source. The condition for the last listed data source is set to otherwise to ensure that Pega Platform always identifies the data source for the data page. When an application references the data page, Pega Platform evaluates each condition in the data source order and uses the data source for the first condition that returns a result of true. um, in some ways, I kind of wish that they would kind of cover like a little bit of like an example on some of these to kind of show what they're talking about a little bit more. Um, um, like this one, this part here, kind of wish that they had like an example of, you know, of that a little bit. But I don't know. We'll move on. Parameters. When populating a data page, you may need to limit the contents of the page to relevant items. For example, a database contains records for all the policies underwritten by an insurance company. If a customer wants to adjust the coverage on their auto insurance policy, you need a way to populate a data page with only the relevant policy record. You can use parameters to limit the contents of a data page. For example, if you need lookup as a data source, you must provide the key value to uniquely identify the record to return to the data page. You can also use parameters to pass data to a report filter to limit results to a specific set of records, such as the specific product type in an inventory database. You can also you can pass a parameter to a data page from user interface elements such as a drop-down or radio button, properties, and a certain other rule types. For a full list of the rule types that can pass parameters to a data page, see the help topic, passing parameters to data pages from non-UI rules. The fact that it has an additional page, along with everything that you're seeing here is a lot there, folks. Okay, so, you know, um, the fact that this isn't its own, this should probably be its own module with how much information is being thrown at you just from this alone. Okay. Using um, parameterized data pages can lead to multiple instances of a data page on the clipboard. Consider the impact of these multiple data pages and of these multiple data page instances when adding a parameter to a data page. If you do not need an instance for each unique combination of parameters, select the Limit to a Single Data Page checkbox on the Load Management tab to maintain a single instance of the parameterized page that Pega platform overwrites when the parameters change. To use a parameterized, that's such a really difficult word to pronounce there. Data source, add an entry to the parameter on the Parameters tab of the data page record. To reference a parameterized data page, including the name and value of each parameter in the reference, use brackets to identify the name and value of each parameter using the syntax. Data page, parameter name, parameter value, parameter name, parameter value, so on and so forth. When users attempt to access a parameterized data page, Pega platform ignores any instance of the data page with a different value for the same parameter. They are just throwing so much information in this. Or at least it feels like that I'm getting overloaded with information here, and that's dangerous. That's very dangerous when you're talking about, you know, um, when you have a page that is this long and it's just jam-packed full of information. It's like, um, if you miss one little key detail in there, then it becomes harder, for the certification, for the, um, conversations with, your peers. Okay. Name. A unique name that clearly identifies the function of a parameter in the eyes of other developers. Data type. Identifies the accepted data type, such as text string. Indicates whether the parameter is required. Specifies whether the parameter is extracted from the data page to another record or injected into the data page from another record. Okay. I'm assuming that in means that it's coming into the data page from another record, whereas out is going from the data page to another record. Um, but it doesn't necessarily specify that at all. So it probably should mention that. Um, referencing data pages. I think I'm gonna make a suggestion that they really should split this particular page up into like multiple pages because this feels a little too much. When data needs to be referenced from a data page, a query field type is used. While most data objects created by an integration designer will not have a key or other needed data pages to create a reference relationship. Query fields require either a list or lookup data page. Query field does not store any key values within itself, so any parameters to the data page are external to the field. Consider a case type that manages flight instruction and creates flight plans for students. The case type uses a query to obtain the weather for an airport by passing an airport code sourced outside of the case, which then returns the weather details and automatically populates them on the flight plan confirmation view. A query does not require the parameter to be a field sourced outside of the case. It can have the parameter come from any field in the context of a containing object or a field from an activity. Okay. Um, Parameters for a query field are defined by the data page or view that a field is configured to use. For example, a data page might use a date range as parameters to determine which transactions should be returned. You can configure a query to copy the information from the data page into the case on first access. Additionally, you can use a savable data page to push the information back to the system record, such as when updating a value. Check your knowledge with the following interaction. Okay, so KC drag the appropriate data page configuration option to each scenario. Okay, so the data page contains the data of a single user. Users can update a registered shipping address, and all users can share the content of a data page. Okay, um, so users can update. Typically, you know, revolves around editing. Um, so data page contains the data of a single user. Typically refers to like scope. You only have a certain limited scope for the information kind of thing. So you know, it's scope doesn't necessarily focus on like the entire class, unless of course you reference it as such. But for the most part, scope typically like focuses on like, you know, like a single method or something along those lines. Sometimes you can have the scope a little bit larger, but more often than not, it's fairly limited. So that's why I'm thinking that this is what it's kind of referencing there. So all users can share the content of a data page. I'm thinking that, it's kind of more of a structure. So check answer, nope, apparently not. Okay, well, um, so it's that apparently. Um, Scope would be set to node in this scenario. Okay, you know what? Let me look at this a little bit more because obviously I got that wrong and I need to relook at what it's referencing there. Okay, well, I mean, I'm already kind of understanding the edit mode. Okay, in that you know, you're manipulate the information on a data page. So that was fairly easy to know, but scope and structure is something that I'm not really grasping all that well. So let's kind of go back over this here. The structure of the page contents and the scope of the data page. Um, okay. The structure of a page determines whether the data page can contain one item or many items. Okay. Set the structure of the data page by selecting an option from the structure drop-down list. When using a list structure, the data page embeds the list items in order array named px results. To access a specific record within the list, use this syntax. Okay. Consider a data page that contains pricing information for a single stock. Structure is set to page. However, if a data page contains pricing information for all the stocks in an investment portfolio, you set the structure to list. Okay, and that doesn't necessarily tell you what exactly it's. I'm trying to look at this and see, you know, what that phrase right there is, you know, um, I'm trying to connect the dots here between the two. Um, structure or the page contents. Okay, so it's looking at what's kind of inside that page. What do you see inside of it? You could either have a page or you can have a list of information being presented to you. It could be a page with information just about that one particular company, or you can have a list of like multiple different companies and its information. So, um, but it's still like the contents of it. Um, let's look at the scope here. Scope of the data page determines the visibility of the page contents within the application. To set the page scope, select one of the support options on the scope dropdown, thread, requester, or node. Select thread if the contents of the data page are unique to a single case. Pega platform populates an instance of the threaded data page for each case in system memory. Um, so requester with contents of the data page are common to all the cases created by a single user or system. It's like note if all users and system tasks on the system can share the contents of the data page. Okay. I can see the scope, even though technically it's more node than anything else, but I mean node is a form of the scope, so that makes sense there. Um, and I guess the key word there is sharing the content kind of thing. Sharing visibility. So, um, but yet a data page contains the data of a single user. Can you not do that with scope as well? Contents of a data page are common to all the cases created by a single user. Hmm. Okay, I mean, I'm just gonna make a suggestion that they really need to kind of take this topic and split it into like multiple different modules because it feels like it's just too much information. Um, so I'm trying to understand everything in this topic. There is a lot of information packed in. Um, it feels like this topic could be its own module um, to discuss um, each of the sections um, a little more with more details and examples to explain more about the topic itself. Um, yes, my brain isn't really consuming everything here as much as it should because of the sheer amount in the topic. I will do what I can, but maybe consider breaking this into smaller or consumable bits of information. And a full Thanksgiving dinner that you have to eat by yourself. Because that's what it feels like. It's just like, here's a full Thanksgiving dinner feast that you have to eat by yourself, and it's like, eat it all, or you're gonna die or something like that. And it's like, oh my god, this is just quite a bit. Um, Hopefully that is clear enough for them to kind of understand, because there's a lot here. And the problem is that, you know, a lot of this is very, each one of these are very kind of, I feel like, very necessary to understand, you know, when you are especially working on data pages, you know. This is not something that is like, oh yeah, this is something, easy, and you can kind of, you don't have to worry about it all that much. It's something that, um, you don't need to stress about it because you're not going to be seeing it all that much, blah blah blah. No. If you're working on data pages, if you're working on anything that, retrieves information from an external database, then yeah, you're gonna want to know a lot of the information that they provide in here, and I it just feels like a lot. That's all. Um, I feel like, um, if anybody is watching this, then I would suggest that you consider going over this particular topic, or, these two videos that I've done, the first one and this, today's, and go over, you know, a little slower, okay? A little bit at a time, trying to really figure out exactly what they're kind of talking about by each of this, and getting in your brain exactly what they're trying to go for on it. You know, understand what a structure is all about. Understand what an object type is all about. What an edit mode is, what a scope is. You know, there's more in scope, that you have to learn about threads, about requesters, about nodes. Figure out, what those are all about. Know what those are all about. Try to look up examples of them to kind of really dig deep into, each of the topics a little bit more. They didn't really go over the object type, so maybe go over the object type a little bit more. Or at least they didn't really cover it in the quiz question. So, you know, um, think about the object type, you know, understand what that's all about. Um, know what, you know, um, the data source is all about, you know, um, like, you know, as a developer, you take the data page and you basically link it to the data source, right? Where, once the user contacts that data page, or, does something that needs that data page for the information, you know, if the if the data page doesn't already have information stored, then it will go to the data source, pull that information into the data page, okay, and obviously, storing it away for later, okay, and then send it back to the user. Now, if the user, you know, if the data page allows for anything that can be edited, like it's, um, you know, you allow for edit mode, by the page, then that means that the user can change information on the data page that will change the data source. So, um, scope is kind of like, how many users can access the data page. Um, Structure is what's being displayed on the data page. And object type is the contents of the data page. So, what's in the data page itself. So, or what information is being, you know, displayed on the page. You know, is it, is it the, all these, like, the dental plan is, kind of like the Pega systems, right? So, it has the ask, it has the days range, it has the 52-week range, so on and so forth, being shown here, which, has its, um, the information data collected from the data source to fill in there, right? Um, so, you know, now, if it was this right here, the Pega systems, you'd most likely want, it to be read only. Okay, you don't want to be modifying the information that's here because most likely you're getting it straight from, the NASDAQ. Okay, you're not changing these values. You're not changing the volume or anything along those lines. Nor should you, change it at that particular moment in time. Let NASDAQ or anything, about, stock prices and stuff like that, that needs to be handled, from the stock market and everybody there kind of a thing. So, um, you know, if it was editable, then, well, you're probably going to have some issues with that, right? You know, the editable probably is, from NASDAQ itself, right? They're changing the price. They're changing, the days range and all that kind of stuff. That's what's kind of happening there. So obviously these figures are probably happening like right then and there. So, you know, so yeah, there's just a lot here. Um, I'm barely scratching the surface on this. The fact that I missed this one right there, just goes to show you that, one, that there's a lot of information, and two, I'm gonna need to kind of go over this more probably offline, to really, um, understand that, Um, Matter of fact, let me, um, I want to take a note of this particular module. Um, let's see. Um, and then and data pages. Needs more review because it is packed with information. Okay, made myself a little bit of a note there. Okay, and I kind of recommend that for anybody, to be honest. Okay, if there's ever a like a module, a topic, a challenge, or something like that that you're not really understanding very much, that you might need to kind of go back and review, go ahead and do so because I know that I'm not going to remember these four key pieces. I'm going to have a hard time trying to remember these for later. I'm going to have a hard time remembering thread requester and node for scope, for example. So I'm going to need to kind of work on that a little bit. I'm going to need to, remember the different data sources that are available, because I know that I'm not going to necessarily remember that. Um, you know, um, so yeah, there's a lot here. There's even links to other help topics that, probably should be going to because there's just too much here. Um, but yeah, that's where we're gonna go ahead and close on down for our Pega studying session there, folks. Um, um, yeah, a lot to consume. So, do yourself a favor, you know, especially if you're kind of if you're having a little bit of a hard time trying to consume all of that as well, do yourself a favor, go back through it, you know, redo it, check it and like maybe check to see if there's some like additional hints about it. Maybe there's other topics around it. Um, look up additional information about, that particular topic of data pages because, oh boy, that got me. um, so be prepared, you know, because I'm pretty certain that you're going to be seeing probably another, I'm pretty certain that you're probably going to be seeing like a question or two, at least on the certification concerning data pages. Um, to be honest, I don't remember my when I tackled it, you know, um, um, when I took the certification for 8.6. So it's not going to be an easy tackle. So, but that's it. So I want to thank you all for joining me. No chatters today, but that's okay. If you're just kind of lurking, I appreciate you being here. For those of you that are just watching on YouTube later, anything that you can do to help me out with the YouTube algorithm would be fantastic. So, you know, um, I encourage anybody to kind of help me out with that. That would be very helpful. Check out the description for other links, social media links that help me out directly. Stream Team application. So check those out. And that's it. That's where we're going to go and edit. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll catch you next time. Until then, take care. Have a good night. Stay healthy. Stay safe. I'll catch you strangers next time.